The LA Kings rule the third period and win in Philadelphia. We've got all the details, analysis, and more on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years. Also co-host of the Puck Podcast, a weekly NHL review show that's been putting out content for the past 18 years, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. You can enjoy the NFL season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and it'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, the LA Kings continued their East Coast road trip with a game in Philadelphia against the Flyers on Thursday night. It was game 32 of the NHL season. And for the Kings, it was game 5 of their 7-game road trip. The Kings were looking to bounce back from a tough 3-2 overtime loss in Pittsburgh on Tuesday. As for the Kings' starting lineup, it would be a familiar one, continuing with that 11-7 setup that's been so successful under head coach Jim Hiller. I believe this was the 6th straight game they've gone to the 11-7 setup, and the 2nd straight game with the exact same lineup. No Trevor Moore once again, still day-to-day with the upper body injury, so that meant that Alex Turcotte would remain on the top line for now with Anze Kopitar at center and Adrian Kempe. The second line would continue to be Quinton Byfield with Tanner Jeannot and Warren Foegele. The third line, Philip Deneau centering Kevin Fiala and Alex Laferriere. And the fourth line would be Samuel Helenius at center, Akil Thomas on one of the wings. The other wings would be rotated amongst the other wingers in the top 3 lines. Your defensive pairings were exactly the same over the last few games. Mikey Anderson with Vladislav Gavrikov, Joel Edmondson with Brandt Clark, Jacob Overar with Jordan Spence, and Kyle Burrows as the 7th and extra defenseman. Your goaltender was Darcy Kemper for a 3rd straight start. David Rittich would once again serve as the backup. So the big question for me going into this game against Philadelphia how would the Kings respond after a rare game, which they failed to hold a 3-period lead or lead in the 3rd period that led to them losing? As for the game summary in the game against the Flyers, a very nice start by LA, which has always been so important for them. The Kings had a lot of energy overall, but it was just a good hockey game to start between the Kings and the Flyers. But LA would grab the all-important 1-0 lead, a beautiful backhand goal on a clean break-in by Kevin Fiala. Now, Philadelphia would respond to tie it up at 1-1, and that's where we'd be after the first period. In the second period, Philadelphia was the better team, but the Kings would still grab the lead on a Tanner Jeannot goal to make it 2-1. However, Philadelphia would respond with 2 straight goals to take a 3-2 lead, but then Captain Anze Kopitar would close out the scoring with the equalizer, just 43 seconds left in the period. And despite being outplayed in that second period, we were tied at 3-3 going into the third. In the third period, it was all Kings. Warren Foegele, Anze Kopitar, Quinton Byfield, and Kevin Fiala all scoring goals. Philadelphia didn't score at all, and the Kings would skate off with a 7-3 victory, tying their season high with 7 goals in a game. Kings improved to 19-9-4 overall for 42 points, 13-3-4 on the season when scoring the first goal of the game, and LA has won 8 of their last 10 games. As for the game stats in this one, the Kings win at 7-3. Shots on goal, narrowly favored LA, 27-26. As for the special teams, Kings were 0-for-1 on the power play, Philadelphia 0-for-2. Faceoffs won, favored Philadelphia 33-29, but there were some key faceoff wins we'll talk about a little bit later. For the Kings, hits narrowly favored Philadelphia 14-13. Block shots also narrowly favored Philadelphia 18-17. So what was good for the LA Kings from a team standpoint? Well, certainly the third period was very, very good, closing it out to say the least, scoring 4 goals while shutting out Philadelphia and holding the Flyers to a total of 2 shots on goal in that third period, and that included Philadelphia having a power play opportunity. So obviously the Kings learned their lesson. or at least show, getting back to form, if you will, in the third period after letting one slip away against Pittsburgh. The Kings were winning key faceoffs. I told you the stats a moment ago. So the faceoffs narrowly favored the Flyers, but there were 3 times, I would say 3 of the Kings' 7 goals came directly as the result of winning a faceoff in the Philadelphia end. Winning the faceoff, getting the possession, and it leads to scoring a goal. So there were some key faceoff wins in this one by the Kings. A formula we've seen the Kings do a lot lately with a lot of success: pucks and bodies to the net. Other than the first goal and the empty net goal, the other 5 goals were scored as a result of pucks and players going to the net. A lot of people got involved in this one for the Kings, which is always great. It wasn't just one line or a couple of players. 12 different players had points. 6 different players had multi-point nights in the win for the Kings. I thought LA had a lot of great puck movement, and I thought they played with a lot of pace, high tempo, a lot of energy, and the penalty kill once again gets the job done. What was not so good for LA from a team standpoint? Well, there were some coverage issues. We'll talk a little bit more in detail about that when we talk about the goals that were allowed by goaltender Darcy Kemper. We've seen a few of these, though, over the last couple of games. There was a long stretch where the Kings weren't having any at all, certainly none that led to goals. But the Kings have had a couple against Pittsburgh. They had a couple more against Philadelphia. So there is certainly that to be cleaned up. The power play, I know the Kings only had 1 chance, but they're 4 for the last 31 with the man advantage. And they are, I believe I saw on the broadcast that the Kings are the worst power play team on the road in the NHL. They're obviously one of the worst power play teams overall. So there's certainly that to try and get going. But overall, solid first and third periods for the Kings. And again, great to see them bounce back after losing the lead and then eventually losing in overtime to Pittsburgh, losing that lead in the third period. They come back, tie game going into the third, and they put it on Philadelphia, closed it out. Very nice to see. Quote of the game comes from head coach Jim Hiller. He was asked what stood out to him in the win, and this is from friend of the show, Zach Dooley, the Kings Insider, LAKingsInsider.com. Jim Hiller had this to say, quote, "The 2 takeaways I have is Kopitar's goal at the end of the second period, very big for us because we had lost all of our momentum. So that was a big turning point in the game. Then the third period, we gave up the lead in Pittsburgh. We were happy with, let me repeat that. Then the third period, which we gave up a lead in Pittsburgh, we were happy with." He's saying the third period they were happy with. He says, "We've been playing so well in the thirds, and tonight I thought our third period obviously was our best. Never mind the goals, but we played the game hard. We checked. We limited the turnovers, odd man rushes, obviously. So I was very happy with the third," end quote. My big takeaway from the win over the Flyers, kind of what Jim Hiller was talking about, kind of what I mentioned before. I love how the Kings responded after the loss in Pittsburgh, and not just responding to a loss, which the Kings have done a very good job of this year. The Kings improved to 9-1-1 on the season in games immediately after a loss. But it wasn't just that, although that was nice. It was not making the same mistakes that led to a loss in the previous game, correcting errors, learning their lesson, and having after letting one slip away in the third, they come back with a huge third period to get a big victory. The Kings have had one time this season where they have not picked up a point in consecutive games. So they've only had an opportunity where they had 2 straight losses, didn't include overtime or a shootout. That's only happened one time the entire season. So the Kings are very consistent after a loss and not making the same mistakes that cost them, not to get 2 points in the standings in the next game. Up next, we look at some of the individual players who did play well, and there were a lot of them in this win over Philadelphia. That's next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. PrizePicks is inviting you to just go to the app, make your picks, and you could be a winner, and you could win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks in as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the best way to get in on action on sports in most states, including California. Download the PrizePick app today and use the code LOCKEDONNHL, and you will get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's the code LOCKEDONNHL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. And the Stanley Cup Final, the Super Bowl, the Olympics, these top athletic events feature the top athletes, and these athletes all have one thing in common, and that is, of course, teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. Select Quote's licensed agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safe and in your family's end zone. Select Quote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 45 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover you less, while Select Quote's licensed insurance agents work with you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/LockedOnNHL. Go to selectquote.com/LockedOnNHL today to get started. That's selectquote.com/LockedOnNHL. All right, let's get into some of the individual players for the Kings and their big win over the Philadelphia Flyers. We always start with the goaltender, and that would be, of course, Darcy Kuemper for the Kings. He did not have to be spectacular in this one, but he did have a few big saves, but was generally solid. I actually thought he had a much better game in the previous game against Pittsburgh, which they lost in overtime, but he didn't have the offensive support against the Penguins like he did, obviously, against the Flyers. As for the 3 goals that he did allow, the first goal allowed the Kings got bunched up on the boards. Vladislav Gavrikov and Kevin Fiala didn't cover in front of the net, and Kuemper found himself one-on-one with a Philadelphia Flyer who scored, so not good coverage there by his defense. Second goal, Jordan Spence turns it over in the neutral zone. It goes the other way. Kuemper made the initial save on the shot, but the rebound eventually did slide in. Third goal was just after a power play for Philadelphia. It expired. LA defenseman Joel Edmondson made the wrong decision to leave a man in front of the net to take the Flyers player who was behind the net. The pass got through him, and the player scored again, pretty much one-on-one with Darcy Kuemper. That made it 3-2 as a bad play by Joel Edmondson. The guy behind the net is not going to be able to score. The guy in front of the net is going to probably score if he gets the puck, which he did. So all in all, I thought Darcy Kuemper played a solid game. Maybe one of those goals off of the rebound, maybe you could put on him, but the other two certainly was poor support defensively in front of the net. But all in all, a solid game for Darcy Kuemper. He improved to 8-2-4 on the season, and he's now 4-0-1 in his last 5 starts. Anze Kopitar, the captain, continues to lead the Kings. He now has 22 points in his last 17 games, leads the Kings in points with 37, also hit the 10-goal mark with 2 goals against the Flyers. His first goal wins the draw in the Philadelphia end, ends up getting the puck, passing it to the point. He goes then to the net after getting to the point because that's where the shot's going. The shot goes off a defender, right to Kopitar. He puts in the loose puck and tied it up at that point. That was the goal that Jim Miller was talking about. One of the keys he thought in the game was that tying goal by Kopitar to even it up at 3 going into the final period. Kopitar also gets the 5th goal of the game for LA, a big insurance goal that made it 5-3. He just continues to amaze and is still on pace for a career high in points this season. Certainly, nothing he did against the Flyers is kind of cooling him off as far as that goes. I've mentioned it. He's the greatest LA King of all time. He's a ballot Hall of Famer. So enjoy him while he is here because he is just killing it right now. But I will say this: if you watch the broadcast, and it was not broadcast locally in Los Angeles. The game was only available on ESPN Plus and Hulu. And the two broadcasters, Steve Levy and PK Subban, who's a former player who played against Kopitar, kept pronouncing him Anze. And I mean, I've heard others do this as well, and I'm like I said, the guy's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's one of the greatest players of his generation. He's having another great year. We can't say his name right. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, it blows my mind, and that a player of that stature could have his name pronounced incorrectly. I know he's got a Z in his first name, but it's not pronounced that way. We all know it's Anze, not Anzi or Anzi, which kind of drives me crazy when I hear it. Okay, maybe that's just me. I did want to mention Alex Turcotte had another fine game, and he needs to stay on the top line for now. He has played his way into having that role for a while. Points in 3 straight games for him since moving onto the top line with Adrian Kempe and Anze Kopitar. Yes, he took that spot from Trevor Moore, who's injured but should be back soon. But when he comes back, I believe absolutely Alex Turcotte should stay on that top line at least for a while till he plays his way off it. He has not done that to this point. Just shows so much speed and just is all over the place in a good way. He did have just one assist against Philadelphia, but a beautiful move around a defender at the blue line, skates in and has a beautiful little saucer pass. I think it was on the backhand even maybe to Anze Kopitar for Kopitar's second goal of the game. Just a beautiful, beautiful feed. And that made it 5-3. And that was, you felt that was probably, it was over at that point. And obviously it was. But Alex Turcotte has proven over the short term that he is deserving of playing on the top line. And another great game for him. I love his energy. I love his speed. I love his ability to make decisions quickly and make plays accurately. And I just think he's a good fit right there on that top line. And I don't see any reason why you would take him off the top line once Trevor Moore comes back. Move somebody else around if you have to, sure. But Alex Turcotte, I think, has certainly deserved of staying on that top line. He's been really good. It's really exciting to see. I thought Quentin Byfield had a pretty good game. He won a draw in the Philadelphia zone, and that led to the Kings' second goal. He had, for the lack of production as far as the goal scoring and the points, it really hasn't shown up in his game as far as it affecting other parts of his game. He may internally be frustrated as well by not getting the points. And there were certainly opportunities in this one for him that unfortunately just didn't get into the back of the net. He had a deflection on the Kings' first power play that was close. In the third period, tied 3-3. He was all alone in the high slot, and the goalie made the save on him. Now, he did get the empty net goal. Nice play, passed it off the boards to himself around the defender, put it into the empty net. So that was nice to see. But again, I thought it was a pretty solid game for Quentin Byfield. Did a lot of things well, and I know that shouldn't, get him off the hook as far as the production not being there, because he needs to have that part of it. But he continues to do a lot of other really good things. I thought he had a lot of good energy in this one. Again, won some key faceoffs, played well defensively, got the empty net goal, his 5th goal of the season. So I thought a pretty solid game from Quentin Byfield in this one. Kevin Fiala, we had good Kevin. He had a lot of jump in his game. Also drew a high sticking penalty, didn't take any penalties himself. And he got a great pass to get the Kings on the board. First goal of the game. Philip Deneau feeds him right at the blue line in stride. He goes in with speed. He's got a defender all over his back, shields the defender with his body, and is able to make a nice move around the goaltender and into a net. Very, very skilled play. Beautiful play by Kevin Fiala. We know he's got a great finishing touch. He's had his issues, though, this year with he had a penalty shot he didn't score on, and he probably had 3 or 4 breakaways to this point that he didn't score on, but he did in this one. Again, I've talked about Kevin Fiala has elite skills, showed a lot of it in this one. He, got a great pass from behind the net from Alex Laferriere as well that set him up for the final goal. So Fiala scored the first goal of the game and the last goal of the game. No look behind the net, behind the back pass from Laferriere, and good on Kevin Fiala for being ready for it. Had his stick down, his head up, saw it all the way, and tapped it into the net. So a 2-goal game for Kevin Fiala. He's got 12 goals and 20 points now on the season. So we had some good Kevin in the win against Philadelphia. I wanted to also point out Warren Foegele. Thought he had another solid game. We've talked about it before. Maybe the best Kings player as far as his effort night in and night out. It's always the same. It doesn't always result necessarily in points for him, but does a lot of good things. But he had the primary assist on the Kings' second goal, takes a shot wide off the boards. He does a backhand wraparound move. Puck ends up going into the crease with a lot of traffic, and Tanner Jeannot is there to get the greasy goal to put it in. We talked about pucks and players going to the net. Another example of that. Foegele takes it to the net, puts it through the crease, and then Jeannot crashes the crease and gets the goal. On the fourth goal for the LA Kings, Warren Foegele, which would turn out to be the game-winning goal, that was Quentin Byfield winning a faceoff. Foegele gets the puck to the point. Jordan Spence fires the point shot, and Foegele is there to deflect it into the net. 9th goal of the season there. And again, that's your game winner. And that's another example of going to the net, pucks to the net, deflects in, and that's your game winning goal. So Warren Foegele, a solid game for the LA Kings as well. As far as some numbers on this one, in the win over Philadelphia, Fiala, Foegele, Kopitar, Laferriere, Gavrikov, and Spence all had multi-point nights. Each had 2 points. Fiala and Kopitar each had a pair of goals. Quentin Byfield and Adrian Kempe led the Kings with 4 shots on goal. Deneau, Samuel Hellenius, Jeannot, and Mikey Anderson each had 2 hits apiece. Vladislav Gavrikov and Jordan Spence each had 4 blocked shots. Gavrikov led the Kings in time on ice, of course, with 22 minutes and 42 seconds. And Joel Edmondson and Philip Deneau, the only players on the Kings that were a minus on the game. They were both a -1. Jacob Moverara, a +3 to lead the Kings in this one. All right, up next, a look ahead, and we'll tell you where the Kings are in the standings. That is next. And we have our 3 stars. That's next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Get ready to tackle the NFL this season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You can get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And I was out at the Kings. I was out at the Chargers Broncos Thursday night game, which is why I'm recording this show so late. Hopefully you are enjoying it probably on Friday morning, maybe on your commute, maybe you're enjoying it on your lunch break, but had some fun with the NFL. My wife is a huge Los Angeles/San Diego Chargers fan from back in the day. We're season ticket holders. I married into it, but I love football. I love going to the game. So it was a happy ride home from SoFi Stadium because the Kings had won and the Chargers won as well. And then I came home and watched the entirety of the Kings game. I was keeping track of it on my phone. I watched a little bit of it here and there, but great to see both our teams win. And she's a Kings fan as well. So good night of sports for the Garcia household here. All right. So for the LA Kings, do want to get to our 3 stars of the game. And again, it's always a lot of fun when you've got a lot of different players to choose from. But for my 3 stars of the game, I'm going to go with the 3 players who each had 2-point nights. That would be Warren Fogle with a goal and an assist. And he also was credited with the game-winning goal, scoring that 4th goal for the Kings. So Warren Fogle, just a great addition this offseason. I knew he'd be good. I didn't quite know he'd be this good. But great to see him have a productive night. He's my number 3 star. Kevin Fiala is my number 2 star, scoring again the 1st and 7th goals of the night for the LA Kings, but showing some great skill. The 2nd goal was really a tap in, and you got to credit Alex Ferrier for that pass. But the 1st goal to get the Kings off on the right foot, great skill for him, taking that past the blue line, skating in on the breakaway and finishing, and really having a lot of good energy all night for Kevin Fiala. But the number 1 star is the captain, Anze Kopitar, just continuing to lead this team, playing at such a high level, even if people aren't saying his name right. Respect the game, and hopefully he starts to get a little bit more attention around the NHL for this incredible season that the LA Kings captain is having. Again, Warren Fogle, my number 3 star, Kevin Fiala, the number 2 star, and the number 1 star for me in the win over Philadelphia is Anze Kopitar. All right, let us look ahead. That is 5 down and 2 to go for the LA Kings on their 7-game road trip. Kings are now 3-1-1 on this trip. Up next, back-to-back games coming up this weekend. Saturday, they're in Nashville to face the Predators, a team that had a ton of expectations going into this season, but has struggled this year. Their coach is very much on the hot seat. So we'll see a desperate Nashville Predators team that the Kings will be facing on Saturday. And then closing out the road trip with probably the biggest challenge of the road trip for the LA Kings. New Jersey's a very good team, but the Washington Capitals have been really, really good this year. I heard that Alexander Ovechkin might return for this game against the Kings. We'll have to wait and see about that. He started on fire this year as he's chasing Wayne Gretzky's goal-scoring record, but he's been out for a while with a fracture in his leg. But he may come back against the Kings. We'll see. We'll see a couple of former Kings in Matt Roy and Pierre-Luc Dubois now playing for Washington. So, again, final 2 games of this 7-game road trip coming up Saturday and Sunday, and it should be a big one coming up on Sunday with the Kings taking on the Washington Capitals. As far as the Pacific Division standings, again, those damn Vegas Golden Knights won. They beat the Canucks 3-1 on Thursday night. So the Kings, despite continuing to rack up the points, still cannot gain ground on Vegas. Golden Knights are 21-8-3 for 45 points. They've won 10 of 13. So during this Kings hot stretch, Vegas has been hot as well. The Kings are still 3 points behind Vegas for first in the Pacific Division. LA, as I mentioned earlier, 19-9-4 on the season for 42 points. And the Edmonton Oilers are just 2 points back of the Kings in third place, 19-11-2 on the season. So it is a tight race in the Pacific Division as far as the top 3 spots for automatic playoff spots and who possibly can win the division. All right, for you everydayers, those of you that listen and watch Locked On LA Kings every day, we have another show. If you're watching this on Friday, because I am recording it very early in the morning on Friday morning, we will have another show coming up tonight. It is our weekly fan feedback show. Hope that you will get involved in that if you haven't already. If you want to, the email address is lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE, if you want to get an email in for the show. Always love for you to post your thoughts if you're watching on YouTube in the comment section as well. And stay connected with the show on social media, on X, Twitter, Instagram. We are at Locked On LA Kings. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you, as always, for listening and watching this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great day. We will talk to you on Friday. And as always, go Kings, go.